Digicom Weekly Growth Marketing Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Digicom podcast. Today, I am here with Vinay and Shristi from the Digicom team. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow all of our different socials to be up to date with our latest news. Today, we're going to talk a lot about your numbers. We're going to talk about different metrics that are really important for us to look at in terms of, your average order value, what people are spending, your margins, your return on ad spend. We're also going to take a look at, why return on ad spend isn't always an absolute measure of profitability. Just because you're, driving a positive ROAS doesn't mean you are profitable. We're going to talk about different strategies to increase sales and revenue, ways to bring down your costs and improve your efficiencies. We're going to look at LTV and customer retention. And then lastly, we're going to look at, obviously with all these different changes, what do we optimize first?
So to begin with, if you're running an e-commerce business, the most important thing there is to know your numbers, to know, the average order value of your products, the profit margins, and the ROAS that you, should be looking or targeting at. Whatever you're spending or whatever costs that you are incurring, you should always know, how much can you go there, like how much you can spend or how much return are you expecting, or you should have to set your targets before you start any sort of spend there.
All right. So talking about numbers as an e-com business owner, Mikey, I think most of the listeners or viewers would know what AOV is, what ROAS is, but can you help us quickly glance through, what these are and how are they important to an e-com business?
Sure. Yeah. So looking at AOV, that stands for average order value. So that essentially is what users are spending on each purchase. I know a lot of e-com brands, when we are marketing on a particular platform, let's say Facebook or Google, we're looking at your cost per acquisition. We're trying to bring that number down. But at the end of the day, when we're trying to see how much revenue we're driving, what's really important is your average order value. There's a huge opportunity to improve your profit margin with average order value with different tactics, which we will get into a little bit different. But we're always trying to bring that number to the highest point that we possibly can, getting users to spend the most on our site with each particular purchase.
Awesome. ROAS, I think it's also, closely connected, not just thing, but it is. The higher you can make someone spend on the website, the more ROAS you can get, and that's just absolute return on ad spend. So most of the optimizations, and I would probably say amongst a lot of optimizations that anybody should do or would do on their websites, increasing AOV is like one of those that can move the lead needle a lot, and very few business owners really step on that side. The usual suggestions on improving AOVs could be, adding in upsells, but there's also some key mistakes that we're going to talk about, but that's ROAS. Now, one important perspective that we have for ROAS is, while everybody kind of talks about, getting a 2x, 3x, 4x ROAS and set that as a parameter of success, ROAS is not always that, yardstick that you should measure the performance by. It is definitely a KPI. It can definitely lead you in a direction where you know whether you're performing well or not. But there's also a different perspective that we'd like to share. And we use a simple calculator built out. That's an exercise we do with every business that we onboard, just to figure out what margins we have. And then before we start, the one question that we absolutely need answered is, what is your break-even ROAS and as a business, and then what would it take to make you profitable? And that's never ambiguous when we are working with any of our clients. So I would like to show a calculator just showing that how ROAS is not such a big deal if you know your numbers right. So let's take a look at that. So here's what you see on the screen is our basic calculator. What it really does is we pick out probably a product or a range of product that our businesses really want to push. And then on the left side here, what you see is the basic costs and the fees that are associated with selling a product. And we have the AOV field here. On the right, there are some fixed costs. Usually these are, credit card processing fee, the merchant fee, something that Shopify would charge you, your shipping costs, and more importantly, the product cost. What is it that you're paying to the manufacturer? If you're building your products yourself, or what is the cost there? And these are really important to, as a business, you should know these. But once you do and you enter them, this cool calculator kind of spits out these values here, the most important ones that we're looking at, and again pointing to the fact that ROAS is not the yardstick that you should measure like an absolute one, is if you have $100 product and these are standard fees that we've input, one thing that you'd note is the product cost here is $30. The moment you run these numbers, you would figure out that with a $100 AOV, your break-even ROAS is 1.63. That means that if you are, as a business or as an agency, able to hit a 1.63, you will be able to break even. And then, just for the sake of clarity as well as future goals, that if you had to operate at a 15 or a 20% margin, these are the numbers that you will have to hit. If you are, as a business, able to manufacture or acquire your products from at a better cost, and let's say this $100 product that we're selling on the website would cost you $10, now the break-even ROAS would also change. So earlier you were targeting a 1.63, but now you would be able to achieve the same break-even at a 1.23 if your AOV is constant. And that's super important for any e-com business and an agency when we're trying to run ads. Having those numbers in absolutes is the most important thing. And that's the way we'd like to take a look at that. Mikey, you'd like to add anything here?
No, I think the way you broke this down makes a lot of sense, and it's important to understand that just because, a 1 ROAS doesn't mean we're breaking even. There's a bunch of additional costs that need to be taken into consideration, aside from just the media spend that we're putting into our ads. So I think you broke that down really well. And I feel like there's a lot of brands that really don't take that into consideration. And especially when you're scaling on, hundreds of thousands of dollars and more, those numbers just continue to get greater and greater. So it's important to look at.
Right. Absolutely. So talking about more strategies to increasing sales and revenue, the first one and the most obvious one is the effective ways to optimize your website, especially conversion rate optimization, CRO. Shrishti, would you like to share your thoughts on that?
Sure. So conversion rate optimization is nothing but the amount or the percentage of people that are converting after they come to your website, right? So like you can get people to visit your website, you can get traffic on your website, but if the conversion rate is low, then you're missing out on something there. So it's very important that, you follow a few steps or a few rules whenever you're creating an e-commerce website. Like, for example, so most of the e-commerce purchases happen on a mobile phone. So if your website is not optimized for a mobile, then people might not, be able to, it might not be that easy to go through, and it won't be very swift. So people might just drop off the website. So it's very important to have that optimized. Then another thing that you can do is have the product images really clear so that they're able to understand and, make a faster purchase, and they are getting whatever they're looking for right there and then. And another thing that you can do is probably have the reviews set up there on the product page, have them very clear, and have pictures put up there so that people have, it just builds trust in them before they make any purchase, so that it makes it easier for them to just go ahead and just buy it there and then. So like all of these things, they help you in improving the conversion rate of the customers whenever they come to your website. Another way to increase sales and revenue is upselling and cross-selling products, which is basically just whenever a person is adding something to their cart, you can probably suggest 2 other things that, go with that. Like if you're selling a pair of jeans, maybe you can have a pair of shoes that can go with them, or just some accessories that can go with them. That'll help in increasing the average order value altogether.
Right. Taking a step back before we discuss upsells and cross-sells, you mentioned reviews, and I think as obvious as it seems, the way reviews are utilized are also not in the best way. That we run a bunch of audits, and a lot of times you'll see that the reviews are buried like at the bottom of the page. And if you run some sort of website with Clarity tool like Microsoft Clarity, or any other tool for that matter, you would see that about, I would probably say less than 30% of the customers really scroll all the way down to the page. So the very first thing is that not enough people are really seeing your reviews. Second thing that we've observed is even if the reviews are down at the bottom, the amount of reviews and the star ratings can always be put right below the name of the product. We see that missing all the time. That's one change that we suggest every store does, because it's easier for a person to just take a mental note and see, okay, there are 4.5 rating and 500 reviews. That gives them gives the brand an instant boost in credibility and trust. So that's one. And a cool case study that we remember of one of the clients that we worked with was they had text reviews on, and their product was something that could be demonstrated really well. We helped them switch that around. We integrated a tool that people could post their pictures and reviews there, and within applying that within a month, they saw more than like a 1.2 1.5% increase in their conversion rates, because people were able to actually see how the product look, feels, and there were genuine reviews there. So I think that's one area that's again underutilized, but can really make a huge difference on the conversion rate and your overall revenue and sales. Jumping into upsells and cross sells, like Shrishti, you mentioned, making sure that products that are related to the existing product that a customer adds to their basket or their cart, that's helpful in increasing the average order values. Also, then there are a bunch of plugins that it's super easy to use on Shopify these days, where you can add complementary products. There are AI plugins that can automatically suggest, if you have thousands of products on your website, the most sought out combinations based on consumer behavior. The plugin can automatically suggest those products and help you boost that. One important point and a mistake that we see happening, and that's especially related to upsells, that I'd like to talk about. And just for the moment, switching over to the slide that's right after this, we'll usually see that when somebody implements an upsell, let's say the main product costs $100, and maybe you'd like to sell two of the same products just to increase the order value, but the pricing is made in such a way that you'll see that it's not as effective and the conversions don't happen. And the reason for that is the pricing. It's nothing to do with how your product is selling or whether 2 versus 3 will work, but the idea behind that is of when customers have a choice in front of them and they are not able to compare it with anything, they do not make a decision in vacuum, because all of this is happening in just a few seconds or minutes, where somebody saw your ad on Facebook or Instagram, became interested, went to your website, added a product to cart, and now they just have a few seconds to make that decision. And if you're not making it obvious for them to analyze whether this purchase is worth their money or not, then that upsell or that sale does not happen. What you see on the screen is a screenshot from a really famous book called Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. And within this book, you'll find plenty of experiments and researches that have been done that really apply to marketing. The screenshot that you see is, I think, from The Economist. They ran this test where on the left, the first ad that you see on the website, that said, if you just get the economist.com subscription, the online subscription, it would cost you $59. And then they had a second option which says, if you want to get the print as well as the web subscription, you'll have to pay $125. The results that you see on the left, about 50% of the people opted in for the economist.com subscription, just the web subscription, and did not, really think about getting the print and web. The reason is when you have two options in front of you and you're looking at what value would it bring in, there's no real comparison. It's just that the print and web is more expensive because you're getting two. So when your brain makes snap decisions, it's looking at one, okay, this is web subscription, I can use it, just $59. And I am not like, this is not a purchase that's really impacting my life, so I have to take a quick decision. On the other hand, I'm seeing web and print, and it's $125. It's pretty much about 2.5 times more than what I would pay. So let's just try the first one. In the second test, there was something called as a decoy pricing that was introduced. So the web subscription still costs $59, But then you see another subscription, that's print subscription, that's for $125. And then you see a print and web subscription, $125. Now, a lot of people did think that this was like a price, like a printing mistake, or the people who put up this ad made some mistake in putting up the price. But there are other models where similar researches were conducted. So now when somebody looks at this, the offer, and they're like $59 for web, but if I only got print, I would still be paying $125. Why not get print and web? Because now I'm getting more value. So there's a point of comparison for the prospect, that they can look at something that's comparable. So print versus web subscription at the same price. Now I'm getting more value for the same money that I was paying. But in the earlier case, there were no reference point. It was either 59 or 125. So when you apply the same logic to upsells, a lot of upsells that are created would be something like one product $100, and maybe the second product is $150. Now for the prospect, there's no value calculator, or there's no way for them to really figure out whether that upsell is worth, can they opt in, will it be valuable? So they usually decline the upsell. The best way to put in an upsell is to have two options there and have a similar decoy pricing. So maybe a pack of 3 could be $200, and then a pack of 2 could be $190. Now there's some reference for the customer that, even if I had to choose like a pack of 2, here's a pack of 3 that's so much more valuable than the other 2, and I'm getting more out of the money that I'm spending. That completely changes the conversion rate. We've seen on a lot of websites that we've implemented this, seeing at least 20 to 30% of the people opting in for an upsell, versus when you just have one upsell with a single pricing, the opt-in rates are somewhere between 5 or 7% or lower. That's one mistake that everybody should avoid in terms of creating upsells. And then cross-sells is just making sure that you have a product that's closely related to the product that somebody is adding to their cart or trying to purchase, and make sure you can bump up the average order value there. Next would be using other underutilized marketing channels. Mikey, what do you think is, we've worked on so many projects together, email marketing, messenger, are these used enough as used for bringing in more revenue?
No, definitely not. I mean, I think I've worked with a couple of brands now that have really utilized like SMS and email to its full potential, and surprising at such a cheap cost, they're able to drive so much revenue. Yes, the upfront cost of collecting those emails and those SMS numbers via Facebook, Instagram does cost a larger amount. It is rather expensive depending on your targeting, but once you're able to get those users into your funnel, email and SMS is extremely cheap, and spamming them with the right promotions, product updates, and messaging can be a really successful way to scale your brand.
Absolutely. I think we did do a podcast about IG automation and Messenger. Check that out. That has also been one of the newer channels that we've worked on, and definitely adding more value, especially for e-com stores owners. So that's something that you should try and implement, and check out the other podcast for more details. Talking about promotions and sales, Shrishti, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think like Mikey said, once you have the customer in your funnel, then, promoting these sales, promoting new products, it becomes very easy to get them back on your website and, purchase more. And promotions like giving them birthday discounts or anniversary discounts, they definitely help. Like we've seen with our clients that whenever we give such promotions, we see a lot of returning customers on our website, and that definitely increases sales. So like whenever you have different occasions like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and if you just shoot an email to your existing clientele saying that you're getting 10% off, and if you just send them those email or messages, and they will come back and purchase if they've liked your product earlier. I mean, definitely they would come back and purchase it at a lower value. Why not?
Right. That's super important. And I think two important mistakes, and I've been covering mistakes today a lot, but two things that somebody should really look at while creating promotions. One is the scarcity part of it. There was a research done where on a week-long sale promotion, about 60% of the purchases happened in the last 3 hours of that 1 week sale. And there are several other similar researches that have been done. We've tried a bunch again for us, testing across a bunch of clients that we've worked with. And one of the instances was we right around like about 2 hours to midnight, talking to one of our clients, and they had a bunch of extra inventory lying around. Just talked about, hey, can we do a promotion to make sure that these are taken care of? And just as a test, we sent out an email to our existing customer list, telling them that, hey, we made, that was a direct email from the founder, kind of saying that, hey, we had some extra stock, being honest and truthful. If you want to, get a good deal, here's a discount code, but it ends at midnight. So people just had 2 hours to act upon that. And the client had been running these sales and promos since forever. Usually they would see about 2 to 5% conversions on emails every time they send it out. Within those 2 hours, not only did they get rid of their extra stock, they actually had to order more because they were able to sell out the entire stuff. And the conversion rates there on that email campaign was about 30%. So we've since then, every time we create a sale or we try to run out a promotion, we make sure that we don't make it a week long or anything more than 2 days is a really long promotion, unless you've got some sort of a cadence where you're nurturing people, telling them that, hey, here's a sale that's about to come up, and then tease them and then take them to the next step. Other than that, short sales is what makes money. Second thing, the most important one, is the targeting. We've seen a lot of promotions that are run to cold audiences, somebody who's never seen your ad, never known your brand, never interacted with your brand, and seen very average or lower than average results because the brand itself has never made that connection with the audience or the visitor. And we kind of put that down as a strategy that does not work. The most or the best returns that ever come are through your warm audiences, somebody who's interacted on your social media channels, your ads, engaged on your ads, IG posts, stories, and then even more than that, anybody who's already bought from you. So not just targeting your promos. Of course, you'll have some sort of like a welcome 10, a welcome 15 new customer discounts in there, and people use them. But the use of those coupon codes is really, really high for people who've interacted with your brand but now are on the edge of making a purchase. These are warm audiences, and then people who've already bought, they love your brand. That's an extra loyalty for them. So who you're targeting with those promotions is also really important. Mikey, I think you've bumped into similar issues with some clients. Your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I mean, definitely witnessed before, really taking over clients and seeing how their products and their promotions were working. They're running week long, month long, and almost always on promotions. And I think that really waters down the value of their product and what they're selling. So we need to ensure that we maintain the value of our products. So we're not continuing to always be on. Like you said, there needs to be some type of scarcity to these promotions. Users need to feel like there has to be an urge to purchase right now because I may not get this deal again for another 6 months and I need this product in my life. So obviously within the targeting, the messaging, and the combination of the scarcity of that promotion, that's what makes a super effective promotion, like basically you were explaining. But yeah, I've definitely seen brands go in the opposite direction and try to have that always on approach and always be cheaper than their competitors. But what their competitors have is value and better brand recognition, which they don't have. And that I think will always win compared to a cheaper, what's perceived to be a lower quality product just because of that sale.
Right. And I think this also closely ties in with the average order value. Stores where we've seen, there's always a sale on, and people kind of get in a habit of buying that brand at a discounted price, and that's what is set in stone for their brand. The quality of the customer is also low. They're not willing to spend more. So all of the future promotions or anything that you do, it kind of caps your average order values. And then the efficiency or the ROAS of your marketing, again, is dropped down. I completely agree to you on that, Mikey. The always on approach, if you're kind of trying to become that brand of, just taking that position of being a discounted store, that's fine. But if that's not your goal, then always on sales are not the way to grow your revenue or sales.
Yeah, and I think that, like you were just saying, it touches back to knowing your numbers. So if we're decreasing our average order value, making less revenue per order, so we're used to having 100 orders a month, those 100 orders are now making us a lot less money, which at the end of the day is bringing down our profit margin. So if you're making a sale, you need to ensure that we're driving even more higher conversion rate, even more orders to account for a lower AOV. So again, just knowing your numbers before doing that's important.
So reducing costs, one is obviously if you're manufacturing your products in-house, you can find out ways, even like just improving $5 on a product can make a huge difference, especially if you're doing volumes. Penny saved is a penny earned, or probably $1. But then if you have suppliers and manufacturers that are building products for you, you can switch manufacturers, look for better options, kind of push them. Like asking is one thing that I see very few businesses do. You can always go back, ask. Even if you make those slightest of changes, manufacturing is and supply is one part where the game is all about volume. And even if you're saving $1 on every product, that can be a different number when you look at gross margins and gross profits. The second is logistics and supply chain management. Again, looking for vendors that give you better shipping, give you better rates on your shipping. There are a few vendors that would, have a flat fee. You also have to consider, the products that you're shipping out, can they kind of fall into different buckets? So, you could have one vendor that's willing to ship your product for $10 up to maybe, 10 pounds. And then you might have other vendor that's just charging you $15 flat fee for anything that you send. Look at your numbers. That's super important and can save a lot of cost there. And then in terms of packaging, can you improve your packaging? People are getting, like we've seen businesses that are getting so creative with their packaging that they are not spending a lot, but still being able to deliver, that the brand value, as well as the packaging could itself be, you don't need two boxes, like a box within a box, to really make that impact, but kind of work creatively and find out ways to reduce costs there. And then in terms of operational support in the background, just as simple as customer service, you might be sitting around, manually sending out emails or responding to customers, probably having a bunch of FAQs put in a chat bot, or having like an automated chat on your website can greatly reduce that time spent and hence the money spent. Those are like the very obvious ways of optimizing. One thing that I really want to call out here is a lot of times, because the brand or the business hasn't worked on these numbers, on improving these, the margin that's left is probably on like in between or lesser than what we would need as advertisers to run ads profitably, or at least get them to a scale where they can make money and acquire customers at the rate they want. So if a brand goes back and kind of makes the slightest tweaks and is able to give, a little bit of more margin to themselves, as an advertiser, we can push even more efficiencies and acquire a lot of customers, because then we get that amount to spend on ads and we can do that profitably. It's not just that you can put all the weight on marketing to kind of give you the best conversion rates, best click-through rates, and the best return on ad spend, but a lot of work can be done before you start marketing, and that's super important. Your thoughts on that, Mikey?
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying before, in terms of numbers, not just AOV, but everything else that I was taking into consideration, lowering those costs are just going to give us some more wiggle room as to how we are breaking even, and allows us to also get a little bit more creative in our advertising. We can take a little bit more risk knowing that our break-even point is not a 1.6 ROAS, it's a 1.2, because we're able to bring down manufacturing costs and improve efficiencies in the supply chain. So again, this entire ecosystem is all connected. So it's important not just to look at your advertising cost and performance there and optimizations, but there could be back-end optimizations and costs that can actually help your front-end advertising.
Absolutely. Especially after the iOS update that happened, a lot of our approach has also pivoted towards creating really good ads, but then also doing a lot of testing. Otherwise, looking prior to that, maybe you thought about a few ads, plugged them, and some of them worked and it was easier to test. Now it's more dynamic. You have to test more. And that wiggle room that you talked about, it's so much more important for us as advertisers, because that's where most of the revenue comes from. If you're able to test properly, find the winners and scale them up, it's just more money for the business. So having that enough margin and improving on that margin could be more helpful. Awesome. And then finally, talking about customer retention and lifetime values, probably one of the more ignored areas in e-com businesses. Your thoughts on this, Mikey?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of spoke about customer retention a little bit with, how we want to do that. SMS, we talked about the automation bot that was created on IG. I mean, we spoke about that in another podcast. But yeah, I think in terms of customer retention, email and SMS is like one of the best and most profitable platforms that people actually underutilize a ton, just because it seems that, it just seems like modern marketing is through Google, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, display ads. But I think simply SMS and email is a great way to retain your customers. If I make a purchase for a particular product, I think it's really important to know if I liked a certain product that when there's a sale for that product, when there's a new version of that product coming out, I kind of want to know about that. I want to be kept up to speed. And, a simple text to my phone, I'm opening almost every single text that comes to my phone. So if I'm getting a text message, an SMS, I'm most likely going to be opening that, and I'm going to be able to see, okay, this brand that I love just came out with a new version, or they have a promotion on a product that I've been wanting to buy, but it's a little bit out my price range. So I think those are two really good ways to keep people engaged and to make purchases again, as well as drive those lower funnel users to actually make a purchase.
Right. I think we've seen that almost in all accounts or most of the accounts, especially talking about people who've already bought from you. The most that we'd probably see is like reminder emails of, hey, here's a new promotion, check it out, or there's a sale going on. And that's kind of so underutilized, because something that we would love to do is, under Klaviyo or any even marketing tool that you'll go, these tools do a really good job in sorting out and segmenting your customers. So, high value customers who've bought from you multiple times within a certain frequency or a certain date range, then looking at people who've probably bought from you once and did not come back. That's a cohort that you should definitely look at, and also try to find reasons of why those people are not coming back. Usually these are, you would probably see like 40-50% of the people in this list, and it's a good activity to figure out what they bought and why did they not come back, and then break them down into, smaller cohorts and see if you can, bring them back with, better promotions, better offer. Was there some sort of a customer service issue that they did not come back? Was it the product quality? That's one of the most ignored things as well, where we're just assuming customers to come back, but then is there something that's happening in the background, not related to your marketing, not related to your sales, but actually related to your product? That's one thing to look at. And then there are so many other segments of people who come back at various 2 months or 3 months marks. So there's so many creative ways of engaging all of those existing customers, and also sharing brand stories. It's not always about promotions and telling them about sales, but it's also something that's happening with the business, some new updates, like Mikey said, even if it's not the product, even if it's about the company. Maybe there's a CSR that they're doing, maybe the company is trying to help or drive some sort of local campaigns. It's always good to share those stories. And in one of our recent projects that we worked on, the brand was nominated in the beauty space. There's a beauty award, and the brand was nominated for that, and it was also based on votes. So all these brands were reaching out to their people. We saw people posting IG stories telling people about, hey, we've been nominated and vote for us. This client sent out an email to the existing high value customers saying the exact same thing, but in an email, and putting a link to vote there. And they did vote. That's obvious. This campaign got a 20% conversion rate because people came back and bought anyways from that campaign. And it was surprising, but it did drive revenue as well. So something to look at, like brands, people get connected to brands, and there's certain amount of loyalty if they love your product and their values align. So definitely something that should be leveraged even more than what it is being right now. And then plugging in regular loyalty programs, maybe you have some credit points, maybe you have point systems, people accumulating those points over time. That could be one way of making sure that people keep coming back and buying. Obviously, it also has to tie in closely with what sort of business you're in. If you have a business where people buy products from you recurring, or they buy the same product every week or every month, those are really good places where loyalties work. There are some brands that would do, especially drop shipping stores where people just keep bringing in new products every now and then. Loyalty programs don't work so good, or I would say not as effective, because people are not really sitting around looking at the brand. They just got intrigued seeing an ad on Facebook or IG, and they bought a product there, but there's no real brand connect, so the loyalty doesn't work there. But definitely worth checking out if you have your own products and you're trying to build that relation with the customer.
And then I know the last thing we wanted to speak about here was LTV, so the lifetime value of a user or purchaser. I do actually have like a small story of a success story that we saw in terms of LTV, and it kind of actually ties into CRO. It ties into knowing your numbers, which is super important. So for a particular brand that we work with, they were looking to start up a subscription/loyalty program. And, we were trying to see how we can do that on the site, because we were trying to retain users to continue to use our product, because this product was something that you needed to use for multiple months. So it wasn't something that was worth using for just 1 month. So what we did was they had a subscription option essentially when you were about to check out. So we made some, we made some optimizations to the site where if you're going to purchase, there were actually 2 bubbles, one saying subscription with a lesser price model for the initial first purchase, and then continuous purchase throughout the months. And then underneath it was the original just buy now solution. So what we did was essentially change the option from what was just buy now to they were originally put into a subscription model right away. 1, it provided us with a greater LTV for that user. And 2, that user got a discounted price up front. So to them, they saw value in that. So it made them actually want to purchase. That initial revenue that we had seen for the first month had gone down. So our return on ad spend went from 2 to 1.5. And that may be alarming, but at the end of the day, the expected revenue that we're supposed to see will be far greater than that original 2 ROAS, that those users may not come back. 100% of those users, were just one-time buyers, and maybe 30% will come back. But now with the subscription, and learning what our LTV is, which we can get into in a second, and how to get that number, we found that 50% of those users were lifetime users now for the next 3 months at least. So that expected revenue ROAS came in closer to 2.3, 2.4. So at the end of the day, we're actually building up a greater amount of revenue, not initially seen, but expected in the future. I know, Vinay, we were speaking about this before actually, but there are a number of like very simple Shopify plugins. If you don't use Shopify, you should. It's a great platform and the easiest platform to create your site, because there's a number of plugins. So there's a number of different plugins to find customer lifetime value, and then you can start to create your loyalty programs once you're able to put together those numbers.
Right. It's so important you touched on this, and how it goes back to, making more money, more revenue, more sales in the longer run. A lot of businesses might not have that margin to scale initially, but if you really know your lifetime value of your customers, you could be acquiring customers at maybe a negative margin and still make money in the coming 2 or 3 months if you know your stick rates and your lifetime value. And even if you are if you're willing to take that path, and maybe you still see lean margins, lean profits, and you're not looking at ROAS like a 4 or a 5 on acquiring customers, but you know that even if you did 1, you would still make a hell lot of money in the coming three months. So that's an important decision for the business to understand and look at the product and the lifetime value, and see marketing as a tool, not just to kind of bring in immediate sales, but to make the business work over a longer period of time. So no instant gratification there, but then absolute money coming in the longer run.
So thank you all for listening and, going through the numbers with us this week. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either Hemant at digicom.io or Danielle at digicom.io. Those are some emails that, we will respond to you with any questions. And then also feel free to visit our site, digicom.io. We have older podcasts there. We're talking about IG automation, so we can review that podcast if you're interested there, as well as daily blogs just talking about what's going on in the marketing sphere.
Awesome. And also, if you would want to opt in for a free audit, we'd like us to look at your media and see if there are any opportunities. We can suggest new strategies. You can visit our Instagram, digicom.io, and DM us the keyword free audit. Is that right, Mikey?
Yeah, free audit. Yeah, DM us free audit, and you will see the bot in action, and we will get back to you via email, and we'll do an audit of your accounts and get to in-depth analysis back to you, and then hop on a call and we can talk about it more.
Awesome. That's it for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.